Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. This is Force of Force StarCraft 2 Strategy, your #1 location for step-by-step strategy and tutorial videos. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Terran build, Marine Marauder Medevac, supplemented with some Ghosts, as a proper response or proper counter to a Protoss 4 Gateway build. Basically, we're going to be taking a look at the general idea, tactics, strategy, and just generally how to properly do a Marine Marauder Medevac build versus a Protoss opponent. I know that a lot of Terran players out there are having trouble versus a 4 Gateway push from a Protoss opponent, simply because it can be so effective. If they time it correctly, they can be knocking at your front door with such a heavy amount of forces that can be very difficult to deal with. And basically, the only way to take care of that or to respond to that properly is going to get some defenses with some bunkers. Just fortify your units a little bit more with the added benefit of those bunkers and proper upgrades as well. Now, just a quick thing to know here, just from the very beginning, our Terran player here, Tarson, is getting a supply depot not at the front wall. Basically, he's not walling off. I just wanted to make a note that wall-offs are only really most effective for Zerg opponents where you have the threat of Zergling or Baneling busts coming towards you. Versus Protoss and Terran opponents, they're not really as effective. The walling's not really as necessary. In fact, in many cases, it can be even detrimental due to the fact that if they attack you and they outrange your units behind the supply depot and the barracks that you have walling off, then they're just going to take out your buildings and you're going to lose them for no good reason, putting you below supply and getting rid of one of your production buildings by killing a barracks. It can put you in a very rough spot. So as you can see here, we're getting a little bit of harass from the Protoss player here, Saki. So again, I just want to make a quick note here. I want to try to mention games which aren't specifically me who's playing. We're taking a look at a game between Tarson and Saki, and again, this is that Terran strategy. Yeah, a little bit of harass here from the probe. Not really a fan of that. Probably one of the most frustrating things you can ever have to deal with as a Terran player. And you know what, to be perfectly honest with you, it's not really fair to attack the SCVs. They're just trying to do their job. I mean, I'm reasonably sure that the SCV is probably the minimum wage worker of the Terran army, and he's just trying to build these structures. There's really no reason for you guys to harass these SCVs constantly. They're just, you know, again, they're just trying to do their job. Anyway, enough with that banter. Getting into the basic build order and what we're looking at here, pretty standard opening with that 10 supply followed by the 12 barracks. While the barracks is building, we're going for that refinery. We're starting off here by attaching a tech lab right to that barracks as soon as it comes up, as soon as we get the Vespian from this refinery. We're also going to be dropping a second supply depot to make sure that we don't get supply capped at all here. So yeah, we're just starting off by pumping out some Marauders. Marauders are very strong early game versus Stalkers and Zealots as well. Marauders are strong versus Stalkers because of the damage they do to them, and versus Zealots due to the fact that with this concussive shell upgrade, they can basically just kite them all day. So you're going to be starting off again by getting these barracks units, by getting Marauders, and also getting a couple Marines, basically to fire away in the background. So we're going to be dropping our second barracks here. We're also going to be getting our second refinery after our orbital command. Now our orbital command went up at 16 supply, pretty standard as a Terran player to get that orbital command 16 supply. That generally seems in most build orders to be the most effective time of getting it. As you can see, we do have a probe scout trying to come into our base. We're able to stop that due to the concussive shells of that Marauder. So we prevented his scout of our base. He's now unaware of the fact that we have the second refinery, we have the second barracks, and that we're also getting that Ghost Academy there. So Ghosts here, not a unit that I've talked much about in any of my replays. They really haven't been prevalent in any of the videos that I've been showing you guys, but Ghosts are very strong versus Protoss. The EMP from the Ghost, taking out the shields and the energy of anything that they hit within the range of the EMP, is very effective versus a Protoss Gateway army. So if you see your Protoss opponent is going to be going for that 4 gateway or 3 gate push, or even a gateway or warp gate into robo push, getting some Ghost out. I mean, you don't really want to get more than 2 or 3 early game because they are so expensive. You'd rather spend that on attacking units. Obviously they attack, but they're not as effective as Marine and Marauders are in general combat. You're just basically using them to supplement your army for that EMP shockwave, also for the sniping ability that they have. A little bit of early aggression here. Definitely something I suggest. Try to keep the Protoss player in a defensive mode. Try to keep them on their toes so they're not charging straight at you with their 4 gateway push and just doing massive amounts of damage to you, which they can do early on in the game. Now, unfortunately, here we were unable to scout out that proxy pylon there. It's so hard, really, because pylons are so small they can put them on any corner of the map, and it's going to be tough to find those. If you do find a proxy pylon, though, make sure you kill it. That is of the utmost importance, because this allows them to warp in units incredibly close to your base from that warp gate tech, which has been finished researched. As you can see here, we have warp gates up, and he is warping in units as we speak. So taking a look at what we're doing here, we built up that factory, and we're actually moving out with it. We're continuing all of our production from these barracks. They're basically, all of our army is going to consist of barracks units. Why, you may be wondering, why is this factory moving out? This kind of seems strange. Maybe it just felt like going for a flight, who knows. But the reason being is that we need... Oh, what am I doing? That is no good at all. Alright, I need to back that up a little bit. Sorry, guys. I just hit a button. Here we go. This is the proper spot. So you're wondering why this factory is floating and heading towards the Great Beyond, or wherever the heck it plans on going. Well, the reason is, if you take a look here at the base, we haven't really got a good scout lately on our Protoss opponent. We're not aware of this fourth gateway here. We were aware of those warp gates being up, but we want to look for any possible tech switches. What this is doing, as strange as it may sound, is it's scouting. We're using this factory to scout because, again, we don't plan on getting any factory units. We're going to be sticking with this Marine Marauder, a medevac or two, and a couple of ghosts. That's our general build. Now we are finally putting up this bunker here, and the reason being that since we have these El Naga watchtowers, we were able to see this push coming towards us. Bunker is going to be of great benefit to you. 1 or 2 bunkers at the front of your base a lot of times can be enough to ward off an attack. You also get increased range from the Marauders while they're in the bunker, so they can hit from a further distance. Just very beneficial to you. And as you can see here, Tarson, by putting down that bunker, was able to repel Saki, just for that sole reason. Saki is liable to have pushed up if that had not been there, if all he had were these units. And you may be kind of questioning that. You may be like, well, why would 1 bunker be enough to repel? Well, the simple fact is that having this bunker up, it allows you to have your units behind it, as well as obviously the units in it are protected. But putting any sort of objects in between you and the zealots are going to be it's going to be a very, very effective strategy. Basically, when you're getting attacked by a Protoss player, if you have your guys out in the open and there's no stim pack for them and you're not able to kite them away, once those zealots get up to you, they're pretty much going to chop you down. So the goal is to try to put some sort of object in between you and that Protoss army, especially this early in the game. Once it gets later on in the game and you have a large amount of force, you're able to use stim pack and basically kite around and deal with it that way. But earlier on in the game, if they get zealots up to you that quickly, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Now, as you can see here, we were able to move in our factory to get a little bit of scouting information. We're basically checking for starports, checking for any tech switch, checking for robotics facilities, which, as you can see, we do have right here. Chrono boosting in an observer right now, so it's not like we're dealing with any immortals, but again, we've been working on this army here of mostly barracks units. We've gotten those Marines, those Marauders, and the Ghost, and we also have been pumping out these medevacs. Now this is where you can really take advantage of the mobility of Terran because of these medevacs. Basically what you're going to be trying to do here is hit your opponent on multiple fronts to try to split up their army and basically just harass them as much as possible. The reason this is effective, again, is because earlier on, hitting this army up front with your units is going to be death to you. It's just too strong for you to handle, like, a straight up frontal attack. So what you're doing is you're splitting up their forces here by dropping on 2 different sides, trying to take out any major buildings, any major units, or trying to take out workers. You know, that's your goal there. I would primarily say that you'd want to go generally for workers, and then your next priority would be any major tech, and then from there worry about their army. But if you can take out their workers, stop their economy as much as possible, and then deal with any major tech that you'd want to get rid of, like dropping on this robotics, dropping in this corner, for example, taking out this robotics facility, lifting up and moving away, that's going to be very beneficial to you as well. So just doing some kiting around, again, trying to split up the Protoss army, trying to hit them from multiple fronts. That's how we're going to be most effective in harassing them and stopping them from amassing a huge army that's going to be too much for us to handle. Going back to the base here, I mean, again, concentrating on our macro, making sure that we're doing all the things necessary to be productive after our attacks and after our harassment. We were able to build that second command center. We're going to be upgrading it to an orbital command shortly, I'm sure. We do have our units here. We've been getting upgrades as well. We got the Stimpack upgrade as well as those concussive shells. Taking a look over here, we are getting that weapons level 1 upgrade. Upgrades are very beneficial when you can afford them. You don't really want to sacrifice, especially early on in the game, you don't want to sacrifice units for upgrades, but once you start getting close to the mid game and then mid to late game especially, you want to start working on those upgrades, because at that point you're really sitting on extra minerals and you can afford to do it. But a reason why, just a short little note as to why you don't want to early on in the game go for those like level 1 upgrades. You obviously want to get things like Stimpack and concussive shells, but things like those level 1 upgrades, if you get them too early, you're simply going to die because you lack units. Instead of spending those minerals on those level 1 upgrades, you could have gotten another Marauder or a couple more Marines, and any early engagements, that small amount of units could turn the tide of a battle. So now that we're getting close to the mid to late game, that's when you're going to start upgrading, but until then, definitely concentrate on working on your units. So as you can see here, we're pushing out. We have a pretty sizable force. We're getting close to reaching what's called critical mass. We're able to stop this Warp Prism drop that they were attempting to do. That's always, I mean, that was obviously luck right there, but anytime you catch something like that, you can be pretty happy about it. Now moving up with this Ghost, we're going to do the critical EMP. Moving in first, EMPing the majority of the units in that big group, and then EMPing again once we see some more units moving down. Getting rid of those shields is just absolutely crucial in this battle. This battle would have gone really vastly different if we hadn't taken out those shields. Those EMPs literally cut the Protoss army's HP in half by removing their shields. And as you can see from there, we were able to Stimpack and just mop up the rest of the army. So just taking a look at a basic thing here, you know, I know there's a lot going on, but I just wanted to cover the basis of this Marine Marauder medevac and supplemented by Ghost mix to counter a 4-gate kind of push or 4-gate pressure that you may be seeing from a Protoss opponent. So started off with the basic stuff by getting that 10 supply depot and that 12 barracks. Then we moved into the refinery, and once the barracks was finished building and we had enough SP, and we got that tech lab and started making Marauders again, because Marauders are so strong early game versus Zealots and versus Stalkers. Make sure you get that concussive shell upgrade. That's really what's going to help you kite around those Zealots early game. And then we moved into the full-fledged getting all these Marines, Marauders, and medevacs after we saw that he was going for that 4-gate tech, and we saw that this is going to be a strong counter. At some point early in the game too, you want to get that Ghost Academy, and again, I mean, as you saw, we only got 1 Ghost here. That's all you only really need 1 or 2 Ghosts. If you're really worried about losing that 1 Ghost, maybe get a second one. But 1 Ghost with a couple of properly placed EMPs, as you saw here, is enough to completely turn the tide of any battle. So again, guys, this has been for StarCraft 2 Strategy, your #1 location for step-by-step strategy and tutorial videos. If you like what we're doing here and you like what you see, please do subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys.